Hi, I want to explain why the government is doing such a good job with this coronavirus problem. There are two major problems. There's the economy and the coronavirus. And if you don't sort both of those out, we're going to have a tremendous problem in the future. So before I do this video, I just first of all want to have a big shout out for all the national health people that are working their socks off to keep us all alive and safe and risking their lives. I think in this time when you realise that you go and watch a football match and watch players earning £600,000 a week and you see the salaries that these great people are earning, you realise that something's going to change after all of this. And also a big thank you to all the people that are keeping the food supply, the police, everything. Fantastic. Now I want to do this video because Piers Morgan, and the reason why I'm doing this is to explain to him that you need an economy. Because if the economy falls apart, we're going to have a worse problem than the coronavirus. Because we'll have rioting, we'll have looting, we'll have disorder, because we're only 5 meals away from anarchy. And at the moment, if people have no money and they need to feed their children, they will do whatever it takes. So, Piers, you need to understand that you need to look after the economy as well as solving the coronavirus. Now let's first of all look at the economy. Every time you've had a problem, like in 2008, what the governments do is just print money. Now the way they print money, it's called quantitative easing, which basically the government get treasury bills, which are a promise to pay, it's a loan with an interest rate, and when times are bad, a lot of companies and people do buy them because it's the safest way of protecting your money. Even at zero or minus interest rates, you are virtually guaranteed to get your money, provided the government doesn't collapse. The ones that do collapse are called junk bonds, things like in Argentina and Venezuela. Those areas they can't borrow any money. So at the moment we're okay. So what happens is that in times of trouble, the Bank of England buys these treasury bonds. And how do they pay for it? They simply transfer a number in a computer and generate money for the government to spend. So America have just now issued $2.2 trillion of loans, however you want to look at treasury bills or gilts or whatever. And the people that buy that is the Federal Reserve. They just simply put a number in the computer and off goes America. They're dropping money to people, which is called helicopter money, so people get checks. But the real problem with this is the money is backed by nothing. Because in 1971, President Nixon abandoned the gold standard. And what that meant was a dollar could be taken theoretically to the bank and exchanged for a dollar of gold. Now, as soon as you remove the the gold standard, it means that the government can print as much money as they want. And they did this to finance the Vietnam War. So what you'll find is you'll end up with hyperinflation, where in the time of the Second World War, where Germany experienced this, people would go along with wheelbarrows of cash. And when they left the wheelbarrow there, what happened was people would ignore the cash and take the actual wheelbarrow. So the definition of inflation is too much money chasing too few goods, because we're not manufacturing anything, we're just basically dropping money in. And another big shout out to all our wonderful manufacturing companies in the UK, which we do have a lot. People like Dyson who are making these ventilators. And I think another thing's got to change. We have got to manufacture more in the UK. So what happens now? If we don't save the economy, as I said, we're 5 meals away from anarchy. We need to make sure that the government does get tax money, that people do earn money, and if you just close it down, we're going to be in big trouble. So what the government's done is a fantastic job. They've balanced all of this in a nice way. And what they've done is they've protected the 1.6 million people high at risk. They've asked everybody else to self-isolate, which I hope you're doing, so that we can actually slow the spread of coronavirus down. This gives us the opportunity to manufacture all the ventilators, to put all in place, all the hospitals that we need, because what will happen after 3 months, when we all go back to work, is we're going to get a second wave of the coronavirus. But what we'll have is our national health services will be in a great position to help us and to save lives. And therefore, the whole package, when we need people to go to work, I think the real problem is when they're using public transport. That should only be used by very, very special people that are actually like the National Health or people that are keeping the economy going. But what happens is, if anybody else can go to work and they can go to work safely without interacting with anybody, this still needs to happen. It's very, very important, because if the economy goes down, we end up with a bigger problem than the coronavirus.